products that assist in the transfer of this quantum energy into our physical body so that we can raise the energy level to a high level of frequency. That is a frequency that we can relate to love and peace and joy and unity. Because we're trying to create that shift on this planet, and it starts with us. So we can go away and meditate all day long, like a monk, or we can take a product that takes you to a deep state of connection and allows you to tap into this energy transfer, this energy, quantum energy that is accessible to all of us when we open up our hearts to receive it. Okay? So then we're going to talk about how powerful your consciousness is to achieve that energetic connection, which can create a regeneration of your physical body. Through your own thoughts, through your own feelings, your consciousness, you can create amazing health within you. And then not only within you, in the people around you. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few little experiments which talk about this concept of how our thoughts and feelings alter the energetic state of matter, which is you and the world around you. And this is the famous double slit experiment, which demonstrated for the first time that when you put a beam of electrons through a slit, that these particles, electrons are particles, the particles go through these two slits, and you would expect that on the back here you would get an image. This is like a photographic plate. So these two electric particles go through, and they should form two particles like this. And so that's what everyone expects to happen. But what happens is that when you don't have a camera here or a detecting device, if you don't detect what's happening here, when you go back and look what happens without detection, you find that the pattern is like this. So you have two particles going through these slits, and then it has this effect on the photographic plate. And so what this tells us is that the particles have consciousness, and that they can change from acting as a particle or a piece of matter to changing into a wave, into a waveform, a quantum wave, which has a completely different behavior. And the only thing that determined the outcome was whether the experimenter was observing. So by the very act of observing something, you are converting it from a quantum waveform into a particle. So your consciousness, your expectation of observation, changes energy into matter. Do you understand that? Just your ability to observe. That's how powerful you are. Okay? You can change energy into matter just by observing at an atomic level. All right. So here we see an experiment where light, or light particles called photons, were put into a jar, a vacuum where all other molecules have been extracted. All the air molecules have been taken out, and then there were light particles, or photons, put into the tube. And we see that there's a random configuration of the light photon particles. They then put a piece of DNA into the tube, and we immediately see that the light particles, what composes the universe, then binds and configures itself directly to the shape of DNA, which indicates that DNA communicates directly with light particles, which are fundamental to the whole creation of the universe, and us, and all matter. But then they took the DNA out of the jar, and we see that the light particles still maintained the information that they were given from the DNA. So there was a data transfer, an energetic transfer of information and data that was still kept and maintained, which indicates again that the very things that we are composed of, the DNA of our cells, can communicate and transfer consciousness to matter and the external world, which is composed of light. So we have a way of communicating from our cells to everything around us. And DNA is very important in that process. And this is how the cells communicate from one cell. You've got 30 trillion cells. How do they know what to do? How do they function as a tissue or an organ? They communicate through a network of light, which happens at the speed of light, instantaneously. And that's how we can get the body regulating itself, because the DNA information is being transferred by a network of light particles, which are then transformed and communicated throughout the body. So how do our emotions, if light and our DNA can communicate and interact with the world around us, how do our emotions affect this process? So there's been a lot of interesting experiments, but some of the work that's been done shows that the heart itself has a very powerful energetic field that radiates out from the body and connects us to the larger quantum fields. And so they did some experiments in the US back in the 90s where they took DNA samples from white cells and they measured the electrical conductivity of the samples when the person or the host of the cells was exposed to different images which promote specific emotions. And so they took some blood, extracted the white cells, took the white cells 300 meters away and put them in a steel vault. And then they measured the electrical conductivity of the DNA in the white cells 300 meters away. And what happened is that the person that they took the blood out, they then gave that person some images which stimulated specific emotions. Sadness, joy, grief, anger. And what they found was that as soon as the person that was 300 meters away experienced an emotion or a feeling, that there was a sudden spike in the electrical conductivity of the DNA in cells that were 300 meters away in the steel vault, instantaneously. So what does it tell us? It tells us that our emotions can affect any part of our body, no matter how far away it is, because the molecules and the atoms are connected to the quantum field. And this transfer of information is instantaneously. So we can change our own physical function and structure just by thinking and feeling. We can create health. We can create disease. If we have a lot of toxic, fear-based thoughts about how we have no value, how we're worthless, or how we don't have enough money, or how people are judging or critical, and that we have a fear of failing. These types of negative fear-based emotions can cause very destructive effects on the physical body. You're bathing your body in a sea of negative energy, which is lowering the frequencies, and then you start to create that reality. Your body says, oh well, I must be a worthless piece of shit. So I'll just behave as a worthless piece of shit. And I'll develop a disease out of that, which is how we often manifest diseases, due to that worthlessness. We're not worthy of living, so we may as well die. Okay, well, the body will help you with that. So, this is a good example of how our thoughts and feelings can affect the water. This is a sample of the water from the Mississippi River, which is one of the most polluted rivers in the US, full of toxic wastes. And when you analyse the molecular structure of the water, it's completely amorphous. It doesn't have any particular structure. But then, when you get the same water, and you then focus your energies and your thoughts on the water and hold the water in your hand and have a prayer of gratitude, thanking the water for the gift that it provides to me and sending the water gratitude, this is what happens to the structure of the water. Just your feeling of gratitude changes the whole molecular structure of the water. Okay? And guess what? You're 75% water. You are essentially a water crystal that is sending, receiving, and storing energy. So your ability to create gratitude, the feeling of gratitude, is a very, very, very powerful energy. It can change the structure of your body, okay? And create health and well-being. And so what do you think the feeling of love would do? Do you think love would have a powerful healing effect? Of course. So the big question is, how do we get rid of all of these negative, toxic feelings and replace them with positive, loving feelings? Because at any one point in time, you have a choice to be either responding out of fear and creating fearful feelings of worthlessness and poverty and survival, or positive, loving feelings of peace and joy and acceptance and abundance. At any moment in time, it's our choice as to how we respond to whatever event or stimulus is occurring. It's either fear or love. And that really determines your whole function of your body. So what we're trying to do today is to give you ideas about how this energetic system works so that you can actually learn how to play the game of life. Because if you don't know the rules, then you can't play the game. You're just a victim that's getting popped around like a piece of fluff blowing in the wind. But when you know the rules and you learn how to play the game, you can create an amazing life. And you can create a body that is full of health and vitality. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
You all signed up for that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so here's another little video. Let's see if I can get this to work. So maybe you turn down the light. Oh, no, he's gone. All right, so we'll see how we go.
Start a bit here. Particularly, you're talking to me about healing through belief.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I cannot believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There's no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter, nothing more. Just another tiny, momentary speck within a different universe.
You think too little of yourself.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't. But I see through you!
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
Listen to tea. psilocybin, LSD.
It's just tea. No honey.
So yeah, Dr. Strange had a interesting experience there. So the master pushed his energy body out of his physical body, what we call the astral layer. And that layer is, of course, a part of your energy template that infuses energy into the physical body. And if there's anything that's defective in that template, it then transfers the defective blockage into the physical body. So this astral etheric energy field that surrounds our body needs to be kept in good condition, needs to be cleaned out of all the negative and toxic fear-based thoughts and feelings that we have. Otherwise it transmits that energy through, gets stored into the physical body. The physical body is also, remember, like a battery and a storage device. It stores all this energy, good or bad. You're like a big hard drive, collecting everything that happens to you is being stored. But if you're storing the wrong energy, then it creates blockages in the flow of the energy, and that blockage in the flow of energy then creates dysfunction in the cells, dysfunction in tissues, organs, ultimately the development of disease. So we have to work back up. It's no good sort of saying, well, let's take this medicine to get rid of the pain, okay? Because the pain is actually a symptom of a much greater cause, which is a blockage somewhere in your energy field, your astral body, or layers. It can even be in the higher layers, higher spiritual layers. But it then is transferred through the chakras and into the meridians. And there we have blockages which need to be eradicated or cleansed, removed. And so the energetic fields feed into the chakra systems. These chakra systems disseminate the energy throughout the body, through the meridians. You've all heard of acupuncture and the acupuncture meridians. So these energy pathways provide a way of distributing this chi force, this pranic life force energy, via the energy fields, through the chakras, into the meridians, and then into the nervous system, and then into the cells. Do you understand? So sometimes when you're getting pain, you need to find out, well, what's the cause of the pain? And typically, you can go and get acupuncture. Have any of you had acupuncture? Have you found it to be effective for pain? It's fantastic for pain, isn't it? What is it doing? It's simply getting rid of the blockage of where the energy is being stored or accumulated, and that is causing the pain. So the acupuncture is dispersing or allowing the energy to flow instead of the energy being blocked, where it then causes pain. Does that make sense? So where did that energy come from? Well, it came through the chakras. Where did that come from? It came from the energetic fields. Where did that come from? It came from higher dimensions of consciousness. So it's all just layers of layers of layers, like a hologram that represents a template that's transferring information down into the physical realm, into the physical body. So once we understand that that's how the body works, we can actually figure out what to do. So the product that we have called Omre Monatomics is a way of bridging this gap between the physical and the energetic realms. It connects to these higher dimensional energies in the quantum field, allowing the transformation of this flow of energy to come through into the body, which is a much higher frequency, and it contains a very powerful frequency of love and benevolence. So it allows you to connect to that higher aspect of your consciousness, which is a more loving, peaceful, and joyful part of yourself. It's simply taking a situation where normally you would have to go and meditate for hours and hours to achieve this sort of connection. Now we have a product that you simply do take 3 sprays twice a day, and you can achieve a deep state of meditation and connection with this energetic dimension of loving, peaceful, and joyful feelings or energies that can come down into your physical realm and create that loving connection with your body. So it's a really fantastic tool, and it sort of connects to the evolution of a person as they go through different stages of their consciousness. And so here we have the David Hawkins scale of consciousness, which shows that the ego, which represents our false identity of an image that we have created since childhood, that allows us to protect ourselves and defend ourselves from attacks. It's a survival mechanism. And the ego relates to consciousness as things are done to me. So when you're functioning from your egoic false identity, you're always trying to protect and defend because things are being done to me. I'm the victim, and I have to protect and defend. And so that's the lowest level of the first level of consciousness, which then goes up as a person evolves through this, through their expanding awareness. They develop the courage to grow, and then they go into the linear rational mind, we call it second kingdom, where things are done by me. So this is a state of empowerment. We're not just surviving as a victim anymore. We've actually figured it out, that we can have some control and that we can actually do stuff so that things are done by me. The more I work, the harder I work, the more results I achieve. So this is where most of the people living in modern societies exist at this level of consciousness, the level of the rational mind. If I do this, I get this result. The problem here is that the rational mind is still the mind. The mind is basically a bunch of monkeys that can't be controlled because it's constantly, we haven't been able to eradicate the ego, which is always trying to say, oh, you better be careful. Somebody might find out how terrible you are. You are really just a worthless piece of shit after all. So, make sure you put on a good mask and pretend to be really, fantastic. And then everyone will love you. Hey, that's a good game. So let's play that game. So everyone's playing that game, aren't they? Everyone's pretending to be wealthy and wonderful and successful and loving and kind and generous, but really, it's just a cover job because, you know that we're really a piece of shit. Because your mother and your father told you you were hopeless and that you're good for nothing and that, you can never do anything right. And why did you do it that way? You should have done it this way. So from a child, you're programmed to deal with all this fear. And even in utero, you were bathed in anxiety and fearfulness from your mother. So we are very much a byproduct of our parents and our genetic history and the environment that we live in that reinforces all this negativity. But as we grow and as we learn that these are the limitations that are holding us back, we find that there is a reality, a spiritual reality, where things are being done through me. There's a higher force that I'm connecting to because I've cleared out a lot of these fears. Now I can tap into this higher energetic force which is working through me to create my reality, to create my health, to create the abundance in my life. And then the fourth phase is, of course, where we go to where things are done as me, which is the state of enlightenment, the fourth kingdom, a higher dimensional force. Now, basically, the reality is that you are God and that you are the creator and you have the gifts of creating and the ability to create. And everything is done things are done as me. So you are, in fact, the creator of everything, working through you. So that's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? So that's our potential as a human. The light, the seed of light, the human. And we can see that the scale of consciousness that David Hawkins developed through the process of looking at attractive field dynamics, we see that different emotions, feelings, and states of being have different frequencies, different energy levels. So each of these is a frequency. So we can see up here that the frequency of love is 500. Okay, whereas the frequency of anger is 150. Pride, 175. Courage is 200. It's very important. At this point, when a person develops internal fortitude and courage or belief that they can do something, that immediately starts to put them into a positive, energetic balance in their body. Below 200 is essentially a state of negativity, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger. These are all disease-provoking emotions. Okay? So they're having a degradation, a destructive effect on your physical body. From courage upwards, we have neutrality, willingness, acceptance, being able to accept things for what they are, rather than judging everything as good or bad, immediately raises your energy level to 350. The logical mind and reason is 400. Then we go to 500. Gratitude is between love and joy at around 520. So love, gratitude, joy, you lift your energy level up to the 500s. And then when you reach a state of blissful, how many of you do meditation? Okay, so the goal in meditation is to reach this state of peacefulness where you're connected into the energetic field which links you up to the quantum field that is basically resonating at different frequencies. And we often, when meditation, we get this state of beautiful peacefulness where we can be totally content and in a state of stillness. That's quite achievable by everyone if they do meditation. So that state would be what we would say would be at the level of 600. And then, of course, at 700, we achieve a state of oneness, where oneness means that we are now connecting to all of the energetic field within all of the creation, and we can be a sense of, it's a blissfulness. Have you ever experienced the blissfulness of that oneness, where you connect to all things, and you have this beautiful feeling of love bathing you, like someone's cuddling you, and you just feel totally content? Have you ever had that feeling of bliss? Okay, so that's actually at the level of 700. The problem is you can't stay there all the time, isn't it? Okay, because you're usually achieving that in very deep states of connection. Imagine if you could maintain that level all the time. You would be a walking, living master. Okay, like many of the masters. So that's the opportunity. How do we raise our consciousness to achieve these states of peace and joy and create a reality based on these emotions as opposed to these negative, fear-based ones? And now we have products that facilitate the clearing of the blockages that are stopping us from progressing up the stage, the scale of consciousness. If we can get rid of those blockages, we can achieve wonderful things. So this is a study that shows, again, how the placebo effect works. Have you all heard of the placebo effect? Right, so it's essentially a treatment where you're given an inactive form of therapy, but you don't know that it's an inactive form. All right? So usually you get given a treatment and then an inactive substance. and then we measure how that inactive substance works against the active substance. So this particular study was done in the Baylor School of Medicine in 2002, and then published in the New England Journal of Medicine, where they looked at surgery in patients with severe and debilitating knee pain. So the surgeons there were three groups. The surgeons typically can deal with the knee surgery in two main ways. One is that they shave the damaged cartilage off. So they cut the damaged cartilage in the knee, and then they pull it out and give it a rinse. That was the first group. The second group, they flushed out the knee joint, removing all of the material they believed to be causing inflammation. So rather than cutting, they simply flushed it out, got rid of all the debris that was in the joint, and that's another treatment that's quite successful for dealing with degenerative knee conditions. And then the third group were the people where they just cut the skin and sewed them up. They did nothing, right? So that's what we call the placebo group. So then they compared the results. So what we see here is that the third group received a fake surgery. The patients were only sedated and tricked that they actually had knee surgery. So what we found was that when they analysed the data, guess what? The placebo group improved just as much as the two other groups that had the surgery. Okay? So what does that tell you? It tells you that if you believe that something happened, then your body responds as if it did happen. So your thought, your mind, your belief created an outcome where you went from having debilitating knee pain to, oh, I'm fixed. Oh, that's great. I'm walking around without pain anymore. What happened? Nothing happened, except your mind and your emotions changed the actual tissue without any surgery. Is that a good deal?
Yes.
You can do it. We just have to create that belief that you can change, and it will change. And remember how we looked at the scale of consciousness, right? That once you get up over into these higher frequencies, your consciousness becomes more powerful. So your ability to create change in your body and in your world happens faster. The lower you are on the scale of consciousness, the slower the effect that you have. The higher the scale of consciousness, the more rapid the change of your consciousness can create change in matter. So there's a benefit to increasing your consciousness by getting rid of all of these blockages. You can create even more powerful results. This is an interesting study that they did. Dr. William Lord from the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology in California. What he did is he got a group of healers, people that have the ability to send healing energy to patients, and he got the healers to imagine that some patients somewhere else in the city had their blood taken, and the blood, typically when it's left in the test tube, it breaks down and degrades, and that's what we call hemolysis. The red cells break down and become liquid. So what they did is they got all of these people's blood, they put them into the racks in the lab, and then somewhere else in the city, they got these healers, and they got the healers to attach their mental healing energy to the blood of the recipients. Now the healers didn't know the people, they were simply sending healing energy to the people that donated their blood in the test tubes. Right? So what they found was that you could project your healing consciousness and you could slow down the rate of red cell hemolysis. Okay? This is proven. You can send your healing energy, you can send a prayer and to someone, and it can help to reduce the degradation of their physical tissues. Their red blood cells could survive in a hostile environment for much longer. And these healers didn't know the people at all. So it wasn't due to a placebo effect. Do you understand? So this is not placebo. It's got nothing to do with the other person believing that I'm healed. It's simply people sending a prayer to try and heal the red cells. And it worked. Okay? And there's many, many studies that back that up. Distant healing and prayer is something that's very powerful. Board did some other interesting studies where they took people into different rooms where the people were basically sitting in a room, and they connected them up to different machines to monitor their heart rate, their blood pressure, and their stress response, their galvanic skin response, which measures their level of stress. So these people were told to go and sit in that room, and we're just going to measure you to see how you're feeling. Meanwhile, in another room, you had other people that were sitting in a different room who had a monitor that was observing the other person sitting in the room. Okay, so there was a TV there. And the person in the other room was sitting in the room, and they didn't know that they were being observed. They didn't know that there was a camera in the room. So that person was just sitting there, just waiting. And the other person in the room is looking at the person waiting. And now that person was told, you have to try and send your thoughts to this person in the other room and try to make them feel uncomfortable or stressed, or send them angry thoughts. Right? So one person is sending all these negative thoughts to the other person. The other person doesn't know. And so the experiment was designed to figure out, can a person send thoughts to another person who doesn't know about it, and what effect does it have on them? So what they found was that the heart rate and the blood pressure went up, and the person's stress response all went up, simply because the person was sending negative thoughts through a TV to the person in another room. Alright? So what is that telling us? It's telling us that our thoughts and emotions are very powerful because they can influence other people at a distance. So do you see how much power you have? How much responsibility you have? How many times do you start having gossip about people? Gossiping about, oh, how so-and-so, oh, what a hopeless case that is. He is. You know, they're totally useless. They've done this really bad thing. So what are you doing? What are you doing when you gossip? You're judging. You're placing a judgment, a negative feeling or energy on that person. And guess what? All of a sudden that other person starts to feel a little bit stressed, a little bit uneasy. Their blood pressure goes up, their heart rate starts to go. And they don't know why. But some other people down at the coffee shop are having a great old time talking about how stupid so-and-so was when they did this, this and this. Do you understand? So you've got to cut that crap out. You've got to cut that gossip. You've got to stop judging. Stop that judgment, because guess what? We just saw how that affects other people, but there's one very important rule with the rule of energy, is that whatever you send out in the energy field, guess what comes back? The same energy comes back. So, what does that mean? Every time I have negative thoughts and judgments about someone, I'm actually getting that energy back onto me. It's a two-way street. It's not just having a negative effect on them, it's actually a poison. You're poisoning yourself every time you create that negative energy. You're poisoning yourself. you're creating disease. Just for self-preservation, stop doing it. Right? You're killing yourself. Guess what if you send love and gratitude? Guess what comes back? Love and gratitude. Does that enhance your function of your energy levels and your healing of your body? Does that reprogram and stimulate the activity of the DNA to start coding different genes and producing different proteins associated with health and regeneration? It does. And we can prove that. Guess what? They've done tests on that. But before we get to that, I want to just go to this one. So this is where people did meditation. They had two groups, people just relaxing, doing nothing, and then they had the people that were doing mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is a state of inner connection, where you're connecting to your heart and you're finding that state of peacefulness within you. Right? So they got those people to do that mindfulness method for a period of hours a day. Then they compared that to the group that were just relaxing. They took their blood, they then analysed their DNA for the genes that were being activated and expressed. Do you understand that our cells can turn on genes and turn off genes depending on what response the body needs? Okay? So if I need to create inflammation, I have to switch on the genes that stimulate inflammation. If I want to regenerate and heal, I have to switch on the genes that stop inflammation and regenerate the repair process. So we have to turn genes on and off. That process is called gene expression. So we're trying to figure out what genes are being expressed. And when we analyse the genes of the people that did the mindfulness, we find that the genes for inflammation get switched off, and the genes which promote healing and regeneration of tissue get switched on. All just because of your own thoughts and feelings can have a destructive, disease-promoting effect or a life-enhancing and healing effect, not only on you, but on others. And you can send that healing energy to others. Prayer has been around for a long time, hasn't it? It works. And the higher your level of consciousness, the more powerful it is. You can create, that's why we have healers. People that have the ability to raise their consciousness can project healing energy and create health and disease in other people. But we're all healers. We're all healers. We can self-heal. I had a disease. I had inflammatory bowel disease. I had to get surgery. The only thing that was left for me was to go and have surgery to cut out my anus. That would have been fun. I could have had a bag. Instead of an anus, I would have had a nice plastic bag strapped to my leg. That'd be fun. So that's how the medical model approaches disease. They're very good at, cutting things out. But hey, I thought, well, maybe it's due to an energy blockage. Maybe I better go and explore that. Guess what I found? I had massive amount of energy blockages in the chakras down here. And as soon as I cleared the energy in these chakras, I went from having 5 diarrheas a day to having 1 overnight. And in 2 months, I was completely healed. And haven't got a problem ever since. So, that means having my anus cut out and half of my sigmoid colon. I'll take that any day. But we can all do it. We just have to know the rules of the game. And you are very powerful. Incredibly powerful. So how do we do it? How do we raise our consciousness? Guess what? We remove, detoxify, and purify. What do we remove, detoxify, and purify? We remove the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual toxins that are all low energy, dark energies. These are the problem. These emotional, mental, toxic, spiritual toxins are the energies that are creating disease, and they're due to, basically we have a lot of these fears because we had traumas. These traumas that occurred primarily in our childhood, which created fears, which then created beliefs and negative emotions. The beliefs were, guess what? You're a worthless piece of shit. You're really no good for nothing. You know? Nobody's going to like you. You're hopeless. You know? Why didn't you do this right? Judgment, rejection, failure. We're all coated with the same brush as a child. Even in utero, we soak up all that negative information that goes into our body. So once we can identify these areas, once we become more aware, we can say, hey, geez, I'm reacting in this situation because I'm scared people won't like me. And that fear is actually changing my behaviour and making me feel uncomfortable. Now, most of the time we're unconscious about what the fear is that's changing it, that's causing us to behave a certain way. That's because we've become so used to it from childhood that we've developed a psychological pattern of behaviour. And that behavioural pattern gets switched on like a button. Whenever there's a situation like this, that behaviour pattern gets switched on. Bing! And all of a sudden, I'm angry. Because somebody looked at me. I'm now defending. And now I'm ready to attack. So that's all it took. Somebody just looked at you or said something and you took it obviously the wrong way. Right? Because people take things, it's like you're wearing glasses, right? This is your fear glasses on. Somebody says something to you and it goes through your sunglasses and it gets changed. And it gets interpreted as that, oh, he's accusing me of something. Or he's judging me. Right? And the other person's not even doing it. But you're looking through the whole world because you've got this little sunglasses of fear on because that's there to protect you and you're trying to save yourself from being exposed as being a useless person. So we have to be aware of that. And the product that we have, the Omre Monatomics, is a product that makes you more aware. Okay? Aware of your feelings, aware of what's going on, aware of what people are saying and doing. You become more aware. You go, holy shit, maybe I'm behaving in an abnormal way. Maybe I should reflect on that and start to realise how that these fears are controlling my life. I'm just a puppet being controlled by fear. Until you recognise that, you're not even in the race. You're just a victim, a prisoner of fear. So anything that can enhance your awareness of what's going on, what is the fear that's driving your behaviour, anything that exposes that is fantastic. Right? And often, the best way of exposing a person's weaknesses and fears is to have a relationship.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yes.
I'm really a happy, peaceful person. All the time. I'm very loving and kind. Until I get into a relationship. And then I'm like a demon. All my fears get activated. So I'm perfectly fine when I'm by myself. Because no one's really exposing me. Right? In a relationship, you expose your heart, don't you? You become vulnerable. And then all of a sudden, when somebody says something, you go, oh, you're attacking me. I'm a good person. And so what that's telling you is that all these fears are now coming up to the surface. So relationships can be held, can't they? Yeah, hands up who's had some pretty interesting arguments about stuff. Everyone. Right. What was that? What was the trigger? What was the fear that triggered that argument? I bet you none of you actually thought about that. But there was a fear that triggered that. And that triggered the whole angry behaviour that you then dumped on that person. Oh, you know, somebody has to be right, don't they? I'm right, you're wrong. Okay? So, what that brings up to the surface, I'm always wrong, by the way. I've just accepted that. You know. See, true peace comes with acceptance. I'm wrong, okay. I love being wrong. You see, it takes two to tango, doesn't it? Two people. But if you don't respond or participate in that anger, guess what? It gradually dissolves. But when two people engage, you know, I'm right, you're right, I'm right, you're right, oh, no, I'm right. Next minute, it escalates and things get nasty. Things get violent. Why do we have so much violence in the world? Remember, the world, the outside world, is an energetic imprint of what's happening on the inside. Right? Why is there so much chaos and violence in my life? Because you've got so much violence and chaos towards yourself. And until you work that stuff out, your life is going to be a mess. Your relationships are going to be a mess. Because you're just creating that type of chaos and violence. Self-violence. The only solution is self-love. Self-acceptance. That's the key, isn't it? Because only when the love is being felt and generated do you start to create love relationships. And peace and joy. It's all part of it, isn't it?
Yes.
So finally, we have a product that can assist us. It's called, this is a nice diagram, as I said. If we get rid of all the fear baggage, then all of a sudden, the balloon takes off. We start to fly up into the high levels, the high frequencies, the higher dimensions of consciousness, of love and joy and peace. Ultimately, enlightenment of blissfulness and oneness and unity can be achieved if we just throw all that baggage over the side. Let's get rid of the fear of judgment. Let's get rid of the fear of rejection, the fear of unworthiness, the fear of failure, the fear of pain and disease, the fear of death, the fear of vulnerability. Let's get rid of the fear of responsibility. How many fears do you reckon you've got? 2? 20? 30? Look, it's an ongoing journey, okay? And it's like an onion. They call it the big onion. Once you get rid of the outside layer, guess what? There's another layer. Another fear. Oh, geez, that's right. There's another fear. You get rid of that one, there's another one. And you gradually work through those different fear-based emotions, and guess what? You get to the core, and then you can start to really understand how much power you have because you've got rid of all this excess baggage. Every time you get rid of some of that excess baggage, your energy level goes up. You become more powerful as a creator, as a healer. You can change your life. You can change the life of your family. Your energy will lift the vibration of those around you. If we have, on the scale of consciousness, if we have 100,000 people at the level of 700, which is enlightenment, then that level is enough to transfer, is enough to raise the consciousness of the whole planet into a state of love. Do you understand that?
How many?
100,000 enlightened people can raise the consciousness of the whole planet.
Woo!
Woo!
There's 400.
That's not a very big number, is it?
No.
No. But we can work towards that. And every time we go up another level, guess what we're doing? We're helping the rest of the planet to come up with us. Because it's all connected. It's all part of the one field. We're all part of the one tribe. We are all together, quantumly linked together. And as soon as we understand that hurting someone else is the same as hurting yourself, then everything changes. You start to understand that I can only be a benevolent, loving person to everyone because I'm loving myself by loving somebody else. Isn't that a wonderful gift? Is that a life worth living?
Yes.
It is. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So how does the Omre Monatomics work to help us? It helps us to find our centre. Our centre, what is our centre? It's the place of authentic self-love. Okay? That's what it's all about, self-love. It's our place of inspiration, a place of peacefulness, a place of contentment. That's our centre. Let me journey in to find the purity of the love of our divine self, the purity of our divine nature that lives and rests through our heart, and our heart feels connection to the wider quantum field. Then we feel the joyfulness of blissfulness. That's our centre. So what we do is we use a special alchemical process to create a monoatomic elements from earth, water and air. It facilitates the body's ability to transmit and receive high vibrational, subtle, interdimensional energy from the quantum field and raise the life force energy of our bodies. So what does that mean? Have you all heard about, do you know what alchemy is? Alchemy?
Yes.
It's where you take something that's impure and you transform it into something that is pure. Alright? So it's a state of transformation. And what we need to do is we need to become the alchemists. We are the alchemists. We are the magician. And we can transform our impure thoughts and emotions and transform them into loving gratitude and peace through our own personal development. That's our alchemy process. So how do we facilitate that? We're going to use that same transformational process on certain substances like metals. Metals that are derived from the earth, the water and the air. One of the main metals that we use is gold. Gold is one of the classical alchemically powerful substances that has a huge beneficial effect on the body. Gold has been known for so many centuries as being valuable. Valuable for what? As a source of trading and money? Yes. But prior to that, in ancient times, the high priests and the people that were the rulers back in the ancient times, they knew that gold was actually a medicine. They would ingest the gold. Okay? Now the thing is that when you ingest gold, it actually makes you sick. It's actually a heavy metal. But what the ancients knew, and the ancient high priests knew, that if you alchemically modify the gold by doing certain procedures, you can change the form of gold into a form that is non-toxic and that has a very powerful energy-raising effect. And that's what we call a monoatomic form. They break the molecules of the gold down from being a metallic lattice down into small aggregates or clusters of gold. Now remember when I showed you that double slit experiment? Where there was a particle going through the slit, and the particle could be changed into a wave or a particle depending on whether you observed it or not. So this is what you can do by doing certain alchemical techniques. You can change the particles back into a wave form, which is connected to the quantum field. So when you change the state of gold and these elements through this alchemical process that we've used in this product, we're bringing the materials back to a quantum level. that is vibrating at the benevolence of the love and the peace of the quantum field. The basic nature of the quantum field is benevolence, love, and peace, and joy. Joy is one of the very amazing energies that is embedded into the quantum field for everyone to access. A state of joyfulness. If you clear out all this crap that's blocking you, you can be connected into a state of the frequency of joy. And you can walk around. Why do you think little kids walk around smiling all the time? Little kids, in third world countries particularly. Have they got a lot of food? No. Have they got a lot of water, shelter? No. But what are they? They're happy as hell because they're plugged in to the quantum field where they experience the frequencies of joy and peace. They don't have so much negative fear that's been embedded into them, whereas in the modern societies, our modern societies seem to be a breeding kennel for fear. We have so much, yet we're so debilitated by fear. And yet those that have so little are free of the fear and have less energetic obstructions. This is amazing, isn't it? So we're rich in physical assets, aren't we? But we are very poor in spirit. Whereas the third world countries are very rich in spirit and poor in assets. It's a dichotomy. But there shouldn't be that dichotomy. It should be a unified field of benevolence and love. So now through the Om, we can access these frequencies more readily. So that when you take the product, we can achieve states of expanded consciousness and awareness. We can have enhanced creativity and intuition, enhanced perception of beauty. How do you feel when you see something beautiful? What happens? Do you have like a feeling of something rising up within you, like, oh wow, that's so beautiful? Right? Imagine if you looked everywhere and you could see the beauty in all things. It wasn't just specifically related to something that is obviously beautiful. What if you could see beauty in everything? Wouldn't that be good? What if you could look at another person and see the beauty of that person? Doesn't matter how bad they are. Because there is perfection in imperfection. Do you understand?
Yes.
Imperfection is beautiful. If you look deeply and you go through your judgment and stop judging, you can find the beauty of the imperfection. In fact, there is no imperfection at all. Everything is
Perfect.
perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is meant to be. Everything is there for a reason. It's there for you to develop your own understanding about yourself and how you can evolve to a higher state of consciousness. Now we have tools, products. We have the Inner Quest training program. How good is that? We can start doing courses on personal development and show us how to eliminate these fears and to develop more loving personal relationships. So combining the products with the education, we can start to emerge from our little comfort box and grow and develop into a loving, peaceful person and develop those relationships that we've always wanted to. And of course, the Ormius opportunity provides us with an incredible financial reward that allows us to get out of that poverty survival mentality and into a state of abundance. So some of the other qualities that we see we can have when we develop a higher consciousness through the Orm: enhanced acceptance and patience. Who would like to have more patience? Yeah. Patience is fantastic. Who's got kids?
Yes.
Okay, could that go a little bit? Could go a little bit down? Could help you a bit? Acceptance and patience pretty much go hand in hand. If you can have more acceptance, you have more patience. Exactly. Optimism and problem solving. You know, it's very easy to get caught up in a problem and why the problem occurred, but what we're really looking to do is to find solutions. And when we have enhanced consciousness, our mind can easily find the solution. So we have a much better ability to problem solve. Physical and mental vitality, just simply we have more energy to think and feel good. Improved focus and clarity. We can process data and information at a much higher rate. We can find those solutions. Inner peace, gratitude and happiness. Well, that's what we're all striving for, isn't it? We all want inner peace, gratitude and happiness. And that's something that we can self-create. And as we connect to these energetic fields and we raise our consciousness, we can access those on a daily basis. Enhanced spatial coordination and movement. Now this is interesting. Enhanced spatial coordination and movement means that just your ability to coordinate movement in space and time can be greatly enhanced when you're more connected to your energetic fields and you're accessing a higher quantum energy influx. Anything that involves timing, and this is very evident in people that do sport. Hands up those that do sport. Okay? Alright? So most types of sport involve coordination, muscle movements, timing, everything like that, right? So if you take the Omre Monatomics before you go out and do your sport, I guarantee you, you'll get instantaneous amazing benefits and improvements. This is the Olympic secret weapon. Okay? You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete, you can be a weekend warrior and still get the same benefits. I've tested this out many times. Playing tennis. You can imagine playing tennis, right? You're running around, the ball is moving, the timing of the racket. There's about 10,000 different things happening all at once in your body for you to hit a ball. How is that all being coordinated? How is your movement being moved? How do these muscles and nervous systems trigger? How does your eye connect and activate the brain to get the blood and the nervous system going so that the timing is... How does it happen? It's a miracle. When you understand the cellular mechanics of what has to happen, the neurology behind all that, like a quantum computer couldn't do it. Right? But you can do it. Now we have a tool that facilitates that whole communication process at a cellular level, a neurological level, and my God, talk about improved performance. Another very important area of life where spatial coordination is very important is sex. Have you ever noticed that? It's all to do with the movement, isn't it? Okay? So, performance enhancing drugs, energy drugs, can be applied in all different interesting areas of your life with instantaneous improvements. So, please, enjoy. I've got this image of where did I put that bottle? Oh, it's not in that drawer. Oh. Honey, where'd you put that bottle? Oh, got it. Okay. Very good. Okay. Amino acids. The other interesting thing with the product is that the amino acids are physical things. It's not energy, they're physical amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of our body. All of our protein is based upon amino acids being linked together to form different structures. These amino acids, such as carnitine and adenosine triphosphate, they are used by the cells to produce chemical energy. So we've been talking about interdimensional, spiritual, quantum energy, and then we have electromagnetic energies. We have then we have neurological, electrical energy in our body, and we have chemical energy. Chemical energy is the last form of energy that the energy is translated into the physical body. And at the cellular level, we need amino acids to produce a substance called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That's the key chemical energetic substance that our body has to produce for our cells to actually function. Without ATP, we die. It's as simple as that. Okay, so all of these energy fields, chakras, meridians, neurological input, all goes down to the cells to produce chemical energy in the form of ATP. So this product actually has the final chemical substance which creates chemical energy in the body. It's called ATP, and it's present in the product, along with carnitine, which facilitates the transfer of ATP in and out of the mitochondria of the cell. So we have the physical substance present in the actual product, along with other amino acids, tyrosine, phenylalanine. These two amino acids are very important because one, phenylalanine, is the precursor to tyrosine, but when it's converted in the body, it forms what we call endorphins. Have you heard of endorphins before? They're like a morphine type substance that the body makes to make the body feel good. In other words, when you feel good, you're making endorphins. It's a chemical cocktail of happiness. If you have a little injection of endorphins, you would be in an immediate high, like morphine. Hands up those that have had morphine. Yeah. Say, hey, don't go away, come back. I have some more of that. You're having surgery or something, it's for pain relief. So these amino acids, including tyrosine, are not only useful for production of your pain relieving endorphins, but they also involve with your mood enhancing neurotransmitters that trigger different parts of your brain that produce these chemicals called norepinephrine, which is one of the main neurotransmitters for transferring electrical signals throughout the body. And dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter produced in different parts of the brain and the body, which again also has a mood elevating effect. It gives us a bit of a feel. Whenever we feel happy, it's because we're making dopamine and endorphins. And this is the problem with drugs. This is the reason why people take drugs. They want a chemical solution to feeling good. I can take drugs, alcohol, and I can stimulate the production of dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins. So now they're taking drugs, LSD, cocaine, methyl, ice. All of these are chemicals that trigger the release of these three neurotransmitters. But rather than artificially causing that, so that you become addicted and dependent to the drugs, we can make them ourselves. We don't need drugs, because we have our own inner technology, our own energy can stimulate this process. We could be making dopamine and endorphins all day long, just by thinking happy thoughts. Every time you have a happy thought and a happy feeling, you're creating dopamine and endorphins. You didn't need to take drugs. You just had to create the feeling by having the thought and connecting to your energetic fields, which is a source of energy that allows you to have those particular thoughts. Is that a good deal?
Yes.
Yeah, that solves the drug problem completely.
Yes.
So, let's get it going. So some of the minerals that are in the Omre Monatomics are not only gold, but other minerals that Dr. Todd mentioned yesterday: iridium, ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, platinum, and osmium. And these are all found in seawater. So we take seawater and we purify it and we alchemically divide and we divide and we divide and we get these metals, these platinum metals, and we break them down into a state where they're in atomic microclusters. And when they form these atomic microclusters, they don't form the metallic lattice, they form a microcluster which acts as a quantum antenna and receiver. It's basically a portal that opens up to receive fifth dimensional energy. Coming into the body. So it's like an energy vortex.
Now let's talk about language.
That's saying, hey, I'm going to suck in this fifth dimensional love, this fifth dimensional peace, this fifth dimensional unity and blissfulness. I'm going to suck that in. Wherever that substance goes in your body, you're sucking in that energy into your body. It's an amazing thing. And guess what? We're all going to try something. Dr. Todd,
Yeah, baby.
he's funneled some into the country,
Trevor's like, yeah, so excited.
which makes it even nicer against the rules. Okay, so we are going to partake very soon.
Wow.
And I'm going to get Dr. Todd to come up
Really.
to facilitate that in a moment. But I wanted you to just be aware of just how incredible this revolutionary product is and how it's going to be able to transform what you do in your life and in your business and in your family and in your relationships and in the world. So I'm extremely excited about it. The other thing I'll say is that we also have found one of the most rarest types of monoatomic substances on the planet, that someone has developed a technique of taking the oxygen molecules from the air and transforming them into a monoatomic element, which is a high quantum state version of oxygen.
Whoa.
There's only probably one or two people on the planet that have found the technique to do it. Dr. Todd knows where to get it. So he's connected to all these incredible research spiritual people, and he's been able to access that at an incredible cost. It's extremely expensive, but nonetheless we've been able to access that. So we have the earth, we have the gold, purified monoatomics from gold. We have purified monoatomics from water, seawater, which gives us a cocktail of all those elements. And then we have the purified monoatomic oxygen. So we have all three states, earth, water, air, combined together. First time in the history of the planet. No one's done that. And as John Glasgow said, there's more. There's more. Because when you heard Dr. Todd speak yesterday about his incredible nano-electronic photoacoustic laser, that's a mouthful. That laser itself can act as a quantum portal as well. And when you blast these things with the laser, it basically puts everything on steroids. It basically just blows it through the roof. So we have got the ultimate triple whammy energy, super boosting product known to mankind. And so I'd like you all to really, when Dr. Todd comes up and continues, to really understand how much technology and hard work and effort has been done to create this product, because it really is amazing. So that's really the Omre product. I think we've given you a good introduction to how that product will work. The The other product that I wanted to mention was a product called CBD oil. CBD stands for cannabinoids, which is the active constituent from hemp. Okay, hemp is the plant that's been used for many, many centuries for the development of fabrics and different types of clothing, for the use of fabrics, but the chemicals that can be extracted from the stems and the leaves of hemp, most of you have heard about marijuana. Marijuana it's an interesting species, Cannabis sativa, in that it has a male plant and a female plant. It's a little bit like pawpaws. The female plants produce the compounds which people use for their drug-induced highs. Okay, that particular substance is called tetrahydrocannabinoids, THC. The THC is what is used by people that are taking marijuana for their drug-induced effects. However, the male plant has virtually zero or a very small amount of THC, and it has very, very high levels of other cannabinoids. And these other cannabinoids are active substances which can actually bind to receptors in our body. Our body actually makes cannabinoid substances itself. Right? We make cannabinoids. We call them the endocannabinoid system, endo meaning self-production. So we make cannabinoids in our own system, and the plant that has the highest level of cannabinoids is the hemp plant. So what we found is that these cannabinoid receptors are present in the nervous system, they're present in the immune system, and they're present in the gastrointestinal system. They're pretty much everywhere in the body. So when we have certain types of diseases or dysfunctions, there tends to be an imbalance in the endocannabinoid production and the levels and the activity of the receptors in the body. So this is where, again, products have started to emerge onto the market, where you can find a purified form of the cannabinoids and use that as a therapy for different types of treatments. So some of the treatments that it's been used for, particularly a lot of beneficial effects in epilepsy, neurological disorders like muscular sclerosis, ALS, behavioural disorders like attention deficit disorders, depression, anxiety, insomnia, gastrointestinal disorders like Crohn's disease, like the disease that I had, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, which is what I had. It's been very successful for the treatment of that. So it has very strong anti-inflammatory characteristics. It has anti-pain characteristics. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about how CBD oil is the latest, greatest treatment for a whole range of conditions that haven't been responding to conventional medicines that well. There's also quite a bit of excitement about how it can prevent the spread of cancer. So when cancer spreads from a particular location, that's called metastatic cancer. And it's been found in rats and mice when they've studied the spread of cancer that the CBD can actually inhibit the metastatic process. So it keeps the cancer located in one spot and therefore allows the cancer to shrink and to be resolved more readily through whatever means, conventional therapies or through alternative therapies. So it's been the applications are quite immense, and how many people can benefit from CBD oil. The problem with CBD oil is that only about 6% of the CBD oil is absorbed. When you take the purified oil, you only absorb about 6% because it's in an oil form. So what the people that we've been working with have developed a patented technique where they can form what we call liposomes. Have you heard of liposomes? You've seen the ads on liposomes, cosmetics and stuff like that. Well, liposomes are like tiny little balls where the oil is on the inside, and on the outside they have a surfactant, a substance which acts as a water-soluble carrier. So by putting things into liposomes, you make a fat-soluble substance water-soluble. And when a fat becomes water-soluble, you can absorb much higher amounts through the gastrointestinal tract. Now, our body functions that way normally. When we eat fat, our body secretes bile into the digestive system, and then that allows the fats to be broken down into tiny little globules, where those oils can be absorbed into the body. So we have a way of emulsifying fat-soluble nutrients and fats. So this is called the process of micellization. You right there, Dr. Todd? Yeah. Okay, so the CBD oil we've been able to form a form of liposomes that goes down to a very, very small size. You've heard of nanometers? Nanotechnology? Nano means very, very small. Okay, about the smallest you can get. And when you can make these little liposomes down into tiny little nanometer-sized spheres, you get very rapid absorption. And the studies that they've done show that you can get 85% absorption of the CBD oil. Woo! So it went from 6% to 85%. So the Omre CBD oil will be one of the highest quality, highest absorption CBD oils available in the world. So that's something that we're excited about. Now, we have Chris, who's here from to talk about GreenX. So he needs to catch a flight, which we weren't aware of. So we want to bring him up on stage, and then Dr. Todd and I can continue after Chris.
Okay.
So given that he has this time constriction, I wish we knew that earlier.